Okay, last short little talking lecture. This one is going to be about start routines. I mentioned that in the very first video that I put up of zip tracking, showing you what a tracking dog looks like. And I mentioned it again in one of the posts. So I wanted to touch on it. Your dogs aren't really ready for a start routine yet unless they have the idea that, oh gee, I'm going out, and they're starting to understand when you put the harness on and they see the flags that they're going to be tracking. Once they have that kind of understanding, then you should be starting to think about your starting routine. Here's mine. You saw it with Zip, but here's mine. I get the dog um, out of the car, and he has a collar on. I put his lead on, and I walk to the track. And about 10 feet or so from the start flag, I will put the dog's harness on. And then I walk him up to the flag. I down him, and I get myself mentally ready. And that means what I'm going to do is, if there's two flags, I'm looking for my mark. I'm trying to decide what a straight line is. If there's just one flag, there's nothing I can mark on. I'm letting the dog sniff. I pick up the article that's at the flag. I put it in my bag. I make sure I have my gloves on. I make sure I have hold of the tracking lead, and then I release the dog and tell him to track. That is a time for me to mentally get ready and for the dog to mentally get ready to track. You don't have to do that kind of routine. You just have to figure out what it is you're going to do and be consistent about it every single time. A lot of people will put the harness on the dog at the car. I don't, because sometimes I'm walking a fairly long distance before I get to where I'm going to track. And so I just chose to put it on at the track, not at the car. Dog doesn't have to down at the start. They could sit. I do think downing at the start has some advantages in terms of allowing you to be ready and prepared, but I wouldn't force a dog to down who is, you don't want to get into a fight at the start flag over a down. So if you're having to just really argue and argue and argue with the dog about getting down, that's not what you do. So you could just stand there quietly at the flag, or hang on to them and let them sniff the ground, and then release them and say go. I think that you'll slowly start to come to some kind of a routine that works for you and your dog, but you can also start to consciously think about, where am I going to water the dog? Where am I going to potty the dog? Where am I going to put the harness on? Do I want them to sit? Do I want them to down? Do I want them just to stand? Those kinds of things, so that you can start to say, okay, this is going to be my routine. I'll try it out. If it doesn't work, I'll try something different. And that's all I wanted to say, was start to think about it. It's too soon for most of you to start implementing it, but it's not too soon to start thinking about it. And pieces of it you could implement. You could make a decision, where is it easiest to put the harness on the dog? Sometimes the car is better, because once they get out near where the article and the food is, they're just out of control. So start to think about those kinds of things, and then just be consistent.